ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Integrated Health and Wellbeing Council, I welcome you all to another episode of Prostate Cancer Awareness Series, which is brought to you by ISW Council and powered by AstraZeneca. So today, in this very important discussion, we'll be talking about preventing prostate cancer. Let's talk warning signs, risk factors, testing, and support. And to discuss about this very relevant issue, I have two very important dignitaries with me. I have with me Dr. Srivastava N, who's a senior consultant and head, Department of Urological Oncology and Robotic Surgery, Sri Shankara Cancer Hospital and Research Center. Welcome to the discussion, sir.
Thank you.
Next, we have with us Dr. Rahul Pradhan, who's a uro-oncologist at Sri Shankara Cancer Hospital and Research Center. Welcome to the discussion, Dr. Rahul.
Thank you, madam.
Thanks is due to both our experts for ensuring their commitment and being part of this prostate cancer awareness series. So when we talk about the prostate cancer and of course the primary risk factors that are associated with that, Dr. Rahul, coming to you, how would you give an overview of those risk factors and what actually is it all about?
Yeah, good evening to everyone. So basically, prostate cancer, we can stratify the we can divide the risk into two types. One is the environmental factors or the modifiable factors, and second is the genetic factors. Overall, for prostate cancer, the genetic risk factors is pretty much low. It's around 2% in general population, but most of it is for the other factors. Some of the modifiable risk factors are the basically metabolic syndrome. What basically metabolic syndrome is lifestyle related diseases like diabetes, like hypertension, obesity, increasing of your waist circumference. All these add to metabolic syndrome. Other than that, we have other risk factors such as smoking. Then there are some apart from this, we have some dietary factors like eating red meat also increases the risk factor. Eating fatty food also, there is some risk associated with it.
Dr. Rahul, very rightly you have pointed about the modifiable and non-modifiable risk factors. Coming back to screening methods, because there are a lot of misconceptions on them, because people, when they talk about screening modalities and how to rely on those results, you think give us an insight on important screening methods which are available for prostate cancer, and what are and how effective are they if we talk about one screening modality against what are the side effects, because there are a lot of misconception related with those side effects. Aisa karne se ye ho jata hai. So give us an overview on that.
Yeah, so the most common and very easy screening method available for prostate cancer is a blood test called as PSA. It's called prostate specific antigen. Now, this is very routinely available, very frequently available all over India. In fact, throughout the world, it is available. So it is a simple blood test. If the value is high, which is the normal reference range is less than 4. Again, there is some age-related variation in that. But as a grossly, we can take a normal value of 4. If it is more than 4, then we can think that the risk of prostate cancer is high. There is still a chance that, around 15 to 25%, even if we have a low PSA, that is less than 4 or less than whatever is the adjusted normal value for the age, there still can be some risk of prostate cancer. Now, prostate cancer is actually one of the preventable cancers. It comes in one of the preventable cancers that if screened on time, then we can, detect it very early and even cure it. So for that, the most important and the most commonly used screening method is the PSA. Now, who should do a PSA? It's basically not for everyone. So if you're below 40, there is no need to screen for a PSA. For people between 40 and 50, only if you have a high risk, if you are having a higher risk than a general population, then your PSA should be screened. So who are the individuals who are at higher risk? One is the people who have a family history, someone's father, someone's brother, or someone in the first degree relatives who has had a prostate cancer. Not only prostate cancer, those who also have a risk of breast cancer, ovarian cancer, colonic cancer, they also might be at a higher risk of prostate cancers. For those who are having a higher risk of cancer, for them, the screening can start at the age of 40. Again, the threshold the limit of the PSA is also lower for those as per that age. Now, again, for those who are 50 to 70, we can routinely offer the PSA screening to an individual, but they should understand what are the implications of it, because in case the PSA is high, you will be subjected to some other further screening like MRI. In case there is some suspicion on the MRI, you may require a biopsy, and overall, you may not even have a cancer out of it. So overall, we need to understand that how much it is going to help us. You have to discuss with your urologist, and it is a joint decision that is taken by the patient and the doctor.
Dr. Rahul, that indeed clarified those doubts when we talk about at what age should we go for diagnosis and things like that. Dr. Srivastav, coming to you, when we talk about, since Dr. Rahul has already talked about the screening technologies and when do you have to go for those tests, when we talk about advancements in prostate cancer screening technologies, please enlighten us on all those new technologies that have come when it comes to early, because Dr. Rahul also talked about the importance of early detection. So just give us an insight on that.
Yeah, very good evening, and thanks for having us here today. And like Dr. Rahul has rightly said, prostate cancer is on the rise, and screening is a very, very effective tool in identifying this disease very early on. All the more because prostate cancer is a very slow growing cancer. It gives us a lot of time to identify the cancer in early stages, and then when identified early, the chances of cure are pretty high, unlike in other cancers. We have been stuck with PSA for a very long time. Unfortunately, we have not gone beyond the PSA screening, but in the last decade we have had some advancements. So we have been now doing MRIs, high resolution MRIs, which can tell us whether a patient has prostate cancer or not. This cannot be used as a standard screening tool because MRI is expensive and is not uniformly available throughout the country. But whenever there is a suspicion, I think MRI acts as a better screening tool than PSA alone. We also have certain blood tests like the 4K test or the PHI or the prostate health index test, which is now being done in selective centers in the country, which are also not very expensive to do, which are relatively cost effective and easy to interpret. So using these tests, we are now able to further improvise on our detection rates than just using PSA alone. In the next 10 years, we will also be seeing AI driven screening technologies, that is the artificial intelligence driven screening technologies, wherein which the AI tool creates a certain logarithm which will tell whether a particular patient is a potential harborer of prostate cancer or not. And I think the next 10 to 20 years are looking very exciting in this domain, because AI is probably going to replace the conventional or the not so strong screening technologies, not just for prostate cancer, but most of the cancers in the human system, and are going to help the community as a whole.
Right, Dr. Srivastav. Very rightly pointed out about how AI can, play an important role when it comes to early detection. Coming to early, warning signs and symptoms, if we talk about prostate cancer. So, what are some of the signs that men should be, wary of when it comes to prostate cancer?
Yeah. So this again, we would like to emphasize that most of the patients that come to us are actually do not have any kind of symptoms when they, are already having a raised PSA or they already are detected with the cancer. In fact, early stages of prostate cancer do not have any signs or symptoms. In fact, a lot of patients also come to us. In fact, in India, maybe around 25 to 30% of the patient come in the fourth stage of the cancer, where they come with back pain, where they come with other generalized symptoms, where the cancer has already spread throughout the body. And one of the most common presentation is back pain, because prostate cancer commonly spreads to the spine. And this is, because they were not screened, they were not detected early. So the cancer has gone on to spread to the spine, and that's how they come to us. Other than that, if there is a enlarged prostate in size, then they may have some urinary symptoms. Some of them can be a reduced flow in the urine. Some of them can be blood in the urine, increased frequency of urination, and they may have to put pressure while passing urine. These could be some of the common symptoms, but what we need to emphasize is most of the prostate cancer does not come with any symptoms.
Dr. Srivastav, would you like to add more to what Dr. Rahul Pradhan just now talked about symptoms? Because there are a lot of misconceptions that are, related with that condition. So, what are some of those myths that you would like to address when it comes to early symptoms? Because many a times, for small infections and things, people might think that, oh, I am having this sensation, I am going again and again to the washroom, so I might be suffering from this. There are some misconceptions, so please address those for us.
Yeah, like Rahul rightly said, vast majority of patients in stage 1 prostate cancer do not have any symptoms. That's the unfortunate part, I would say, because this is the stage where most of the men can be completely cured of the disease with appropriate treatments. So screening becomes very important in identifying these patients. But when we come to symptoms in general, the age-related process of prostate gland is to enlarge. Like how there is development of cataract, like how there is development of graying of hair, wrinkling of skin, so on and so forth, as a part of normal aging process. The normal aging of prostate is enlargement. And as the prostate enlarges, a substantial amount of patients, more than 75 to 80% of patients with an enlarged prostate will develop one or the other urinary symptoms that Dr. Rahul just mentioned. Unfortunately, stage 2 prostate cancer patients also mimic the same set of symptoms, like how a patient with an enlarged prostate who does not carry prostate cancer present. So there is a common overlap of these symptoms, like straining to pass urine, having to pass urine repeatedly, passing urine in interrupted stream, not being able to complete the urination in one stream, having a sense of incomplete emptying after urination is complete, rarely blood in urine or even burning while passing urine. So these are overlap of symptoms between patients with enlarged prostate, what we call as a benign enlarged prostate or a non-cancerous prostatic enlargement, and to those with prostatic cancer. So it becomes important for us to alert the common people that a substantial proportion of men beyond, say, 60 years of age will encounter one or more of these kind of symptoms. So not all of them are suffering from prostate cancer. If you have to give a ratio to it, if there are 100 men experiencing these kind of urinary symptoms, only one of them might be harboring prostate cancer. So it is important not to panic whenever there are urinary symptoms, but it is equally important to reach out to their doctors, particularly urologists, to find out if these symptoms are because of prostate cancer or because of a age-related enlargement.
Vastav. Coming to now, we have covered about the risk factors, how modifiable and non-modifiable risk factors are there, and of course genetics playing a role in it. Then of course how early detection is important, different diagnostic techniques, and how new innovations can further enhance the overall landscape when it comes to diagnosis of prostate cancer. Coming to the important part, which is treatment part, once an individual has been diagnosed with prostate cancer, so what are the steps that are there when we talk about treatment modalities, and what are the factors on which these treatment modalities might depend?
So that's this probably the most important part, because I want to take a minute here to explain and emphasize that prostate cancer, like I mentioned before, is a very, very indolent or a very slow growing cancer in a vast majority of people. We do see very aggressive biology cancers once in a while, but majority of the prostate cancer is slow growing in nature. So the treatment options available to cure this cancer are plenty. Stage to stage, if you compare it with cancers of any other organ, we can confidently tell that prostate cancer patients tend to do much better. Overall, in patients having stage 1 or stage 2 prostate cancer, more than 90% of the patients treated appropriately experience a long-term cure. When I say long-term, it's 10 plus years of cure rates, which is in itself a very, very good outcome for the disease and the treatment. There are several ways to treat prostate cancer, and to understand that, what we do actually is to risk stratify the patient. So when a patient is identified or diagnosed with prostate cancer, we use several parameters from the histopathology, from the MRI, the age, the PSA, so on and so forth, and stratify that particular patient into a particular risk group. We have 5 risk groups, and we call it as very low risk, intermediate risk, high risk, and very high risk groups. The terminology risk is a bad term, because the moment in cancer we associate the word risk, it means risk or risk to life. That is not the case here. When we use the word risk in this situation, it simply means the ability of the disease to progress. So if there is a patient with very low risk prostate cancer, there is a very high probability that this cancer may not progress at all in their lifespan. So unlike in many other cancers, there is one good option of even observing a few patients with prostate cancer. We call this as active surveillance, where we just identify that a patient has very low risk prostate cancer. We educate the patient that the probability that this disease may progress and harm him are extremely unlikely, and emphasize that we can avoid doing any kind of treatment on him, provided he adheres to a strict follow-up protocol. He needs to come back for checkups regularly on time and get all the tests done that the doctor asks for, and he should also be willing to undergo treatment if the kinetics of the disease changes at any point in time. As the disease category moves to becoming either low risk or beyond, we start considering doing certain treatments and try and cure the cancer. Even in low risk category of patients who are very elderly, say 80 plus of age, we can safely observe them without having to do any treatment. Like I just mentioned, active surveillance. In the intermediate risk category, we have 2 treatment choices, where we can either operate, remove the affected gland along with its attachments, what we popularly call as the radical prostatectomy, and try to cure the cancer, or alternatively, subject these patients to hormone therapy periodically and give them radiotherapy. In intermediate risk category, both these treatments are equally effective and provide very high cure rates. As the disease advances in the risk stratification, indirectly meaning to say that the biology of that particular cancer is more aggressive, we need to be very careful with our treatment choices. Here, what we typically do is combine these treatments, what we call as multimodality therapy. In multimodality therapy, what we do is to do surgery first, keep the patients under close follow-up, and if we suspect that the disease is coming back, what we call as recurrence or biochemical recurrence, we offer them hormone therapy and radiotherapy at that point in time. When we combine these two treatments, the vast majority of even high-risk patients and very high-risk patients end up being cured long-term. As the disease advances into stage 3 and stage 4, we may not be able to cure these kind of patients. However, with a judicious use of systemic treatments like the hormone therapy, certain oral medications called as the novel hormonal agents, and chemotherapy, we can keep the disease in remission and control for very long periods of time. If all these treatment strategies are, ideally delivered to the patient, it is not uncommon for us to see patients even in stage 4 prostate cancer, that is the last stage of prostate cancer, surviving and doing extremely well for many years.
Vastav, very, nicely you have talked about all the 4 stages, treatment modalities. But when we talk about treatment modalities, there is a certain kind of, side effect related with them. And how do you take that decision to, because at the end of the day, the quality of life of the patient has to improve. And, so there is this thing about balancing the quality of life along with trying to give the best treatment for the side effects of when we talk about chemotherapy or maybe surgery. There are certain side effects. So what are the considerations that you take to ensure that the quality of the life of the patient is not negated in any way?
I think any treatment that we deliver in any patient, not necessarily a cancer patient, should always factor in the side effect profile. There is no use of doing a great treatment and trying to cure the patient and making him or her crippled. So it is very, very important consideration for all practitioners to ensure that the side effects of the treatment that is delivered is kept to the least possible. Of course, all treatments that we offer to the patients definitely have one or the other side effects, but the medicine has evolved to such an extent wherein we are able to keep the side effects to the bare minimum, and even when side effects cannot be avoided, we can use certain other strategies to minimize the brunt of side effects. So this requires judicious planning, detailed counseling to the patient, especially just before the patient has to choose to undergo a treatment. We lay open all the potential side effects, and we also discuss in detail of the measures, the countermeasures we take to either avoid the side effects or minimize them. We also prepare the patient psychologically, keeping them geared up to be ready to anticipate the side effects and handle with it. And luckily for us, the vast majority of side effects that occur with prostate cancer treatment are temporary and are reversible in nature. So as the treatment is complete and within a few weeks of completion of treatment, a majority of patients stop having these side effects and return back to full normal life.
Right, Dr. Srivastava. Dr. Rahul, coming to you, when we talk about prostate cancer diagnosis, it can be an emotionally challenging experience for a patient. And like Dr. Srivastava also talked about that, how, empowering patient to take an active part in healthcare journey is important. So how do you ensure, through counseling, through giving them more knowledge about the whole treatment modalities, what is the way through which you see that kind of awareness is created with the patient and with the caregivers also?
Yeah. So before we initiate any kind of treatment, obviously we have to discuss what they can expect out of the disease, what are the treatment options available, with each treatment option available, what are the outcomes, what are the side effects they can experience, and then over the long term, how will be their quality of life, whether they can go back to work. Some people are convinced, as Dr. Srivatsa sir has told, that most of the side effects are not much. In fact, if it is a localized stage 1 or stage 2 prostate cancer, most people, we assure them that, even if they've undergone some major treatment, cancer related treatment, most of them actually can go back to their routines, go back to their work, go back to whatever they're doing before they came for the cancer treatment. Some people are convinced with this, some people are not convinced with them. In fact, yesterday what happened in our OPD is that there was we had a patient who was not convinced with the treatment. He had, his PSA was high since 1 year, and then his family was pushing for the treatment, but he was really not convinced. So what we did is, we had other patients who come to us for follow-up. So we tell them, why don't you speak to them? And then, he had a chat with them for 15 minutes, and then they really got convinced that, yeah, taking the treatment is not a big deal. And since there is a problem, we can't be sitting on it. We have to, take the decision to go for treatment. And once they see the outcomes of the treatment, they are really, really convinced. And probably that is the most convincing, better way to convince a patient than to see other patient, go through this.
Yeah, that is important, that kind of support network is there, and patients advocacy groups, patients coming together to share their experiences and stories. It does motivate and inspire other patients. Coming to you, Dr. Srivastava, because you talked about how empowering patients, making them a part of the whole journey is important, and Dr. Rahul Pradhan also touched upon the importance of counseling. So you think counseling is, of course, an important part of the whole process, but is it something that is done along with as a part of the treatment modality as of now? Or is it just you have a set of different, psychiatrists and counselors who are there to cater to those patients?
Counseling is a part of the primary treatment discussion. So whoever is the care provider, if I have seen a patient and then I am counseling him for some sort of treatment, the onus is on me to counsel the patient. And it is really important for almost everyone, every practitioner who deals with any cancer, to have a very logical and a practical approach for counseling, because I think that is what is the most needed for a patient who has been just diagnosed with cancer. So we always start with counseling. We reassure patients. We are very realistic in setting up expectations. We do not give them false hopes. We ensure that they understand their disease. We ensure that a majority of them will do extremely well and then just get back to their normal lives. And then we also tell them that whatever difficulties they are going to face, they are going to face for a temporary period of time, with all of us being together in it. So that reassurance that we are there for them when there is a problem is also very important. I would say a vast majority of patients will be satisfied, will be reassured, and will be confident enough to go ahead with their treatments with the primary care provider doing this discussion. Rarely, patients with advanced disease who realize that they may not do well and that they may not be cured might take a little more time to come around. So if that is the case, or in patients who already had a background depression being diagnosed, or already on certain treatments for depressive disorders, we seek the help of psychiatrists or onco-psychologists who then will be a part of their treatment journey throughout. So they will be seeing the patients in parallel along with the treating team to ensure that not only is the patient cheered up during the treatment, but is also compliant to treatment. Because the first reaction of a depressed patient is refusal of treatment. So to avoid that, the onco-psychologists also ensure that they are a part of their treatment journey and ensure that the patient takes all the required and suggested treatment on time.
Right, Dr. Srivastava. When we talk about the Indian scenario, cancer is not something that people easily accept. There's this taboo related with the disease, and then when we are talking about prostate cancer or even breast cancer for that matter, there is a lot of stigma that is attached. So you think there is a need to bridge that gap, and how can healthcare organizations or even communities or non-government organizations, how can they come together to bridge that gap, to remove that stigma and inspire people to come out of that fear and discuss? Because until and unless you discuss things, we were talking about how early detection is important. So when you're not talking about it, not seeking medical intervention, then things can go from that, they can go to worse. So how do you think that level of awareness creation, how can that be created when we talk about issues like prostate cancer, their risk factors, preventive measures? How can you, what can you see? Because as your role as a public health professional who's working in the field actively, I'm sure you will have many good inputs to share with us.
Yeah, I think that's very important because like you rightly said, cancer is still perceived as a taboo. Cancer is perceived as a forbidden disease, something that somebody has done wrong to acquire. So unfortunately, the myth or the misconception comes from the fact that cancer luckily was not a very, very common problem in our country till the last 2 decades. Things have changed. We are rapidly modernizing. We are, as a part of modernization, we are urbanizing a lot. We're changing our lifestyle. We are moving away from the traditional lifestyle of our culture to the Western culture. So the food we eat, the way we consume processed foods, all are changing. So cancer is now a common problem. It is not surprising for me to perceive that cancer will be the largest killer in our country in the next 20-30 years. If not, at least the incidence of cancer will become so common that almost every 10th or 12th person in the country can experience cancer at some point in their lifetime. The key point here is that a vast majority of these cancers, if identified early, I'm not talking of prostate, I'm just talking in general. Vast majority of these early detected cancers can be potentially cured. Of course, it's important for us to prevent cancers, but it is more important right now to identify these cancers in an early stage so that at least a cure is possible. For this to happen, people should be aware And this awareness is unfortunately lacking in our country. And I would like to take this opportunity to compliment and congratulate you for driving a program which creates awareness for prostate cancer. Such programs are very important. They help identify the target audience and then counsel them through a dialogue about the signs and symptoms and the possibilities with which early diagnosis can happen. Public awareness can also be created from a national level. I think the government is already on it, and we keep seeing advertorials periodically in leading newspapers talking about these diseases. Articles in newspapers, journals, magazines, and online platforms. I think probably roping in reputed people of the country and making them talk about it will also help create more awareness. And most importantly, world over and even in India, 1 month, that is November, is dedicated for creating awareness about male cancers, prostate cancers in particular. We call it Movember, 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 where we schedule a lot of programs, community level programs. We go to communities, talk to them. We go to institutions, organizations, workspaces, talk to them, educate them about signs and symptoms of prostate cancer, offer screening programs, so on and so forth. I think this has to be a more structured and integrated approach across the country. And with that, I think a vast majority of cancers can be identified early and then treated appropriately. So to summarize, number one, the myth should be gone. It is not a sin to have cancer. It's majority of the times acquired because of various reasons. Number two, it is not a communicable disease. It doesn't spread from one person to another, just like how cough and cold spreads. So we can be with prostate cancer patients, take care of them, and we can still be fine. Number three, talk about awareness, how to identify early, encourage people to go and get themselves screened. And number four, create a national level awareness by various platforms.
Dr. Srivastava, very rightly you have summarized the whole purpose of the discussion, and it is the support of your doctors like you that helps us keep going, in this awareness mission. Coming to you, Dr. Rahul Pradhan, because Dr. Srivastava also talked about how the government is taking a lot of initiatives for non-communicable diseases, and we had, in the last 10-15 years, we have seen a whole approach has changed towards a more preventive approach, where people are, being inspired to move towards a healthier lifestyle. So you think when we talk about a disease like prostate cancer, you think that though we have discussed about modifiable and non-modifiable factors at the very start of the discussion, risk factors, but do you think that preventive approach is something that can be, enhanced more? There is a need to bring that in the main discourse of things when we talk about cancer.
Yes, I think not only about prostate cancer, but any cancer or any disease as such should get the best chance of screening, should be detected early, and that provides the best opportunity for an individual to get cure, and that provides us as doctors to treat it in a way that the outcomes are well, there are minimum side effects. The most important for this, which I emphasize to most of the patients, is screening. Get screened, get screened, get screened. After the age of 40, every individual should have an annual health screening. It's not just about prostate cancer. It's about you go to any hospital or any diagnostic center, they will have these packages of health screening where they do your routine blood test. They do some basic imaging like a chest x-ray, like a ECG, like an echocardiogram, like an abdominal ultrasound. So with this annual health screening, we will be able to pick up most of diseases in an early stage, and most of them can be treated and cured. And if not, they can be adjusted in ways that most people can accept the treatment. So I would like to emphasize the most important part about the screening now. With our generation also, I see a lot of people, even when I talk about screening, when they come up, like someone's parents have been detected with a stage 3, stage 4 cancer, and we talk about screening, they get surprised. They will be aware that what stocks prices has gone up, what is going on in Ranveer Kapoor's lifestyle, but they will not be aware that every individual should at least get a health screening after the age, at least after, at the age of 40. In fact, in the last few years, especially after COVID, we are seeing a tremendous rise in not only cancer, but other cardiac diseases. I have been telling patients now, once you're 35, just go for an annual 1 day in a year, half a day spent for a health screening. That's all I would want to emphasize.
Right, Dr. Rahul, very, very rightly have pointed out how that level of awareness has to be created. Dr. Srivastava, coming to you, when we talk about alternate therapies, because in India there are a lot of myths also associated. Wahan chale jao, you'll get rid of, like you yourself said, that it is said that cancer is because of some sins that you did or things like that. So, what do you think these complementary or alternate therapies, when we talk about them, do you think they can be integrated into the main medical interventions, and do they play a role in that? Because for our audience awareness, I think that would be an important perspective to share them with.
Yeah, so this is very important. Like you rightly said, for the Indian audience more in particular, because we are a huge country, we are an ancient country, we have lot of good quality systems of medicine which were prevailing in the past, and which have shown a lot of promise. But then we need to know how to balance all these treatments in the given context in the current age. We have to understand that all these new cancer biologies are driven by environmental factors which are new to our environment. So traditional practices may not be geared up to handle these diseases completely all by themselves. Having said that, we are firm believers in integration of a variety of systems of medicine and deliver enhanced healthcare to our patients. Our own institution has a separate dedicated wing for Ayurveda, where we send patients regularly to ensure that their treatment is optimized to the best possible effect. But like you rightly pointed out, integration of these systems of medicine is very, very important. While we understand that a vast majority of these diseases will require aggressive treatment with some form of modern medicine, we routinely advocate patients going back to their native diets, native lifestyle. We simply tell them, go back home and eat what your father ate, eat what your grandfather ate, you will be fine. So it starts from there. So we make it a routine habit of telling our patients, just do what your forefathers did, grandparents did, their parents did. When we start, because we are all genetically designed that way. So the moment we go back to our roots, majority of the times things fall in place. We also use natural remedies, for instance, curcumin, piperine. Curcumin is haldi, turmeric. Piperine is pepper. So we use these ingredients regularly to enhance the immunity of the individual, and these have also been scientifically proven to be effective against cancer cells. When patients start experiencing after effects of our treatments, we send them to our colleagues in other integrated systems of medicine like Ayurveda and homeopathy, where they use their methodologies to mitigate or minimize the side effects that the patients are experiencing. For instance, pain, chronic pains, chronic constipation, sleeplessness, improving appetite. We have seen some phenomenal improvement when patients have been taking these alternative systems of medicine. Not only that, the side effect profile of these drugs are much lesser in compared to the conventional or the modern medications, and hence we adopt these medications whenever there is a possibility. But word of caution again, it is not possible for cancer to be cured with ancient systems of medicine, not because they are ineffective, it's more because the biology of the cancer that we are seeing today is more aggressive than before. And therefore, it is important that patients consult a modern practitioner of medicine, take opinions, and freely discuss with him or her whether can I, doctor, you say that I have this cancer, is there a possibility that I can use an alternative system of medicine to cure myself? In vast majority of the cases, the doctors will be very honest with their answers. If possible, they will say yes. If not, they will say no. I think it's very, very important because timely intervention is the essence. And if we have lost that time trying out alternative systems of medicine, then getting to the same level of cure rates may not be possible. So it's important to discuss with the contemporary medical practitioner, but also ensure that your medical practitioner is open to suggesting alternative or integrated systems of treatment wherever possible.
Right, Dr. Srivastava, that indeed was a very, very insightful answer. So coming to you, Dr. Rahul, since you talked about how the younger generation needs to be made aware of the importance of early screenings, and so you think with so much social media, these days, and so much of information being bombarded through different platforms, you think there has to be a safety net also to ensure that only the right and the true information is netted out to the general public, and what are some of the ways through which we can make sure that that level of knowledge is imparted? Because you talked about how they'll be aware of what is happening in some celebrities' life, but they need to understand the importance of early screenings, the early detection. So how can we ensure that that kind of mass awareness?
I think first programs like these, as organized by you, that is helping us reach out a lot of people about health screening. Then we also try to organize certain camps that helps us reach patients. But then we still feel the reach is not enough. The government also has been trying to do certain things, but it has to be more stringent, where like someone tells you that you have to link your bank account with your PAN card and Aadhaar card, and there's it is mandatory. Otherwise, things won't work out. We need some sort of stringent law or some sort of stringent awareness that everyone, who is a citizen of India is, emphasized about this. And then only we'll be able to, really, able to detect diseases early and then treat them early. And until that happens, organizations like ours, organizations like yours, individuals like us, we just need to keep educating people, trying to collaborate. As an individual, it may not be possible to reach out to a lot of people, but we can reach out to organizations. Like suppose we go to the police community and then we try to deliver a talk that this is what our health screening is about and how we can detect things early, and once detected early, you take treatment and you almost go back to a very similar lifestyle which you were already leading. Then we go to schools, go to colleges, go to big IT companies. A lot of IT companies are already having this health screening, but the reach has to penetrate even more, and people have to really understand the importance of it. Only then we will be able to deliver the best out of it.
Right, Dr. Rahul. Very rightly you've pointed out about some very practical solutions when it comes to awareness creation. Dr. Srivastav, coming to you, when we talk about awareness creation, and though we briefly touched upon that, but I would like to know more about how support groups and patient groups, help in the overall well-being of patients, especially treating, their that stigma, that trauma, or maybe that fear of being diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah, very important question. Before I answer that, I'll just add to what Dr. Rahul said. So as he rightly said, I think we need to talk more and more about these diseases in the community. I think it's also equally important for the government or the syllabus creators to dedicate a small chapter about hazards of health, benefits of periodic testing and screening in schools and colleges. I think we are teaching our kids a lot of things, teaching them about this fundamental method with which they can kind of protect and ensure a good health for their futures will go a very long way. Maybe as the children come into high school or even their 11th or 12th standards, a small chapter somewhere talking about the importance of health, maintaining health, and also screening for diseases becomes very, very important. So I think if we catch them young, repeatedly keep telling them about it, I think at least the future generations will probably do better than us in terms of maintaining their health and getting themselves screened on a regular basis. Now, coming to your other question of how support groups help. Support groups are the norm for cancer management in a community. So if you go to the West, a lot of support groups are there for even small cancers, rare cancers, and very, very common ones as well. Prostate cancer is probably second most common solid organ malignancy all over the world. So there are plenty of support groups for prostate cancers all over the world. Unfortunately, the concept of support groups are not very robust in our country, India. We do have some support groups for all cancers, and likewise also for prostate cancer. For instance, we have the Indian Prostate Cancer Foundation, the Global Prostate Disease Foundation, which are doing active support group meetings periodically, where past patients interact amongst themselves and also with potential new patients, and discuss the merits and demerits of treatment, the adverse effects related to treatment, how they coped with it, how they overcame it. In fact, I have attended a few meetings, patient group meetings in this regard, and I have learned a lot from them. Small things like how they manage their urinary incontinence or how they manage their pain. Very novel ideas, which we can also imbibe and impart to our next patients. So support groups are very important, and support groups, especially spearheaded by old patients, will go a long way in managing prostate cancer. Even several pharmaceutical companies have toll-free numbers and support group online platforms available for management of these cancer patients. But I think it again is has to be a big time prerogative and an initiative from the government of India to establish these support groups on a formal basis.
Dr. Srivastav, that was a very, very practical answer, and how there is this need to have more support of these support groups, which are actually a good source of information, which is very, very useful for these patients. And that indeed was a very, very enlightening session, and I'm sure that our audience today will take away a lot of relevant information, and the session will motivate them, will encourage them to go for those detection, early screenings and, diagnostic techniques for early detection, and will play a very, very important role in better health outcome. And thanks to both of you for taking out time from your busy schedules and, joining us today for this very important talk. And I hope that the audience did enjoy listening to it as much as we enjoyed having the discussion.
Thank you very much for having us. It was indeed great.
Thank you for this session was brought to you by the IHW Council and powered by AstraZeneca. And we will again see you in another informative session on another critical aspect of prostate cancer. Meanwhile, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep on following our social media pages for more updated information on health. Thank you.